Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires. Our guest today is former chair of the Lower Merion Township Board of Commissioners, a bright attorney with a lot of interesting careers. We'll tell you about his latest career. And his name is, I call him Jimmy Ettelson because I've known him since we went to Lower Merion. He was a year ahead of me, however. He's much older than I am. This is Bonnie's Beat. We like to showcase people that are doing important things in the community, whether it's in business, academia, charity, whatever. And James Ettelson, Esquire, is now the president of the Merion Foundation, and we'll tell you all about that and why it's so important.
Bonnie, thank you very much. I think this is probably the first time we've had a long conversation since the hallway at Lower Merion High School.
No,
hopefully
used
I
to
won't
fight with you at commissioners' meetings all the time.
That's true, too. Well, it wasn't a fight. It wasn't a fight.
Discussions.
You had some great arguments. Never mind.
He was the other party, but I forgive him. Okay.
Glad to be here. Glad to have the opportunity of talking to you about this exciting project. And hopefully we'll get some interesting facts out there for your folks.
Okay. I've been reading in the pages of the Mainline Times a lot of stuff about the transfer of two important historic properties in Lower Merion Township to the Merion Foundation.
Right.
One of them is the Bala Women's Club,
right,
which is a beautiful, beautiful building.
And the other is Levering Mill House, which is adjacent to it,
yes.
The little house on Levering Mill Road. It's a little building on Levering Mill Road. The women's, well, first of all, the foundation, the Merion Foundation, it's actually the charitable arm of what's called the Merion Community Association. Merion Community Association is the trustee and owner of the Merion Tribute House. And has
the Merion Tribute House.
And has been for its inception.
Okay, that's a fabulous facility.
And the reason this is important is because these two properties, as we'll discuss, have an awful lot in common in terms of their history, in terms of their purpose, and what they do. So this was an exciting project for us. The foundation, which is the charitable arm of the Merion Community Association, devotes itself to giving grants to various Lower Merion activities, and that's part of what the Merion Tribute House does with the revenue that it raises. So it's the charitable arm that does that. And last spring, we learned that the Women's Club of Bala Cynwyd was looking to sell their property. They've had, over a period of years, they've had an awful lot of, let's call them, financial issues and problems with being able to maintain these facilities.
And the older they get,
the worse it gets. I mean, it's like anything.
The more expensive it is to do repairs on these beautiful historic buildings.
And they found themselves, probably spending most of the money trying to maintain the buildings as opposed to doing what they wanted to do, which was more civic and charitable activities. And the other issue is the issue of being able to preserve these buildings. Both of them are on the historic register, as is the Merion Tribute House. Both of them, interestingly enough, were dedicated at one point to the memory of fallen soldiers. So interestingly enough, the Merion Tribute House, which was actually founded back in the 1920s by a guy by the name of Eldridge Johnson. You may not know the name Eldridge Johnson. But you may know the business that he had. Eldridge Johnson lived in Merion, and he lived on the facility, on the property that became the Merion Tribute House, founded a company called RCA Victor.
Oh, and his master's voice.
His master's voice. Nipper, interestingly enough, was
the
his
dog.
Oh, yes. And so this property had a tremendous history and was founded actually as the Merion War Tribute House. That's what it was called. It was for World War I vets. Looking down to Bala Cynwyd, the Women's Club and the Levering Mill House had a history that started around the same time, the early 1920s. And the Women's Club started as a club that was pretty much trying to better the lives of the people that were in Bala Cynwyd in some way, shape, or form. One of the things they wanted to do was they wanted to, in those days, start a library. and they did start the first library in Lower Merion, which was at the facility called the Levering Mill House. So that was the original
How do
library.
you know all this history? Were you the
I'm
president?
old.
Were you the president?
I wasn't there.
Were you the president of the Merion Civic Association at one point in time?
At one time, I was the president of the Merion Civic Association.
And the president of the Board of Commissioners of Lower Merion.
Right, and
etc.
ultimately became a board member of the Merion Community Association, and then about almost 20 years ago became its president.
It's that long.
Yeah, so it's a
You must have done
fabulous
something
facility.
right.
No, actually, I think I was the only one that went to the meeting when they voted, so that's why. But this was an opportunity that came up. I mean, to sort of summarize that issue, we found out that they were having some difficulty. We did maintain a close relationship with the Women's Club over the years. We've made grants to them through the foundation. We even donated some, when we redid our ballroom at the Merion Tribute House, we donated the chandeliers over to the Women's Club.
Lovely.
And a lot of the relationship was really the result of our executive director, Colette Speakman, who maintained a close relationship with the director over at the Women's Club. So
You do have to mention Colette Speakman's husband, because he's such a good guy.
yes, a shout out to Pete Bannon.
Okay, photographer for the Mainline Media News. Okay.
Exactly, and a great
Talented guy.
And Colette has been our executive director for a number of years at the Community Association. So that's really where this synergy started. We learned from the Women's Club board members that they were looking to sell the property.
Now, if they were going to sell something that's been certified historic, could somebody like knock it down and build an apartment building?
Well, it's
like the Merrimont Estate on Penn Road, which eats my heart out every day when I drive past there.
Yeah, I don't want to get started. Don't get me started on zoning.
Oh.
But anyway, basically, it could be knocked down. It could be developed as a residential. It's in a residential district.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the question was, can it be preserved? And the interesting thing about the Women's Club is that their bylaws prohibited them from selling the property and keeping the money. So their choice was to sell the property and donate the funds, which then meant that it could be used for other things. Or we sort of came up with a suggestion: instead of selling it and donating the money, why not donate the property to our Merion Foundation? The Merion Foundation has...
so real estate law came in handy for you, right?
For me it did. For me it did. And we had a number of discussions. The question of whether it would be approved by the State Attorney General was an issue, and it was. And we actually started
Who
this.
was it? Was it Beamer was in
Larry
charge by
Barth.
then?
Larry Barth has been doing that since, I guess he was involved with the Barnes years ago. Larry's been there. What it is he's in charge of the Attorney General's trusts and estates and indenture
okay.
package. So anyway.
It wasn't Kathleen.
No. We won't even mention that.
We won't mention that. Okay.
I forget that name. So anyway, the discussion, it was a natural thing. First of all, through the Tribute House, we do the same thing that the Women's Club did. We have events, weddings, various bar mitzvahs, various other functions. The revenue, obviously, is used to preserve the building and maintain it. And that's what they did at the Women's Club. Not to the same scale that we did.
No,
but
because Merion Tribute House is
it's
big,
country.
and a lot of, I mean, we had some political functions there when I was chairing somebody's campaign. Yeah.
It's had a great long history. The problem with the Tribute House is the same problem with the Women's Club, constantly being able to maintain its upkeep. It's a major problem because both are historical facilities.
But each one of those is also a polling place in Lower Merion.
Exactly.
So it's got to be maintained.
That's exactly right. Well, or they have to poll somewhere else. I mean, basically, it's part of what the civic function is, and it worked out very well for the Women's Club, works out very well, obviously, for the Tribute House. The other issue is what fits in the neighborhood. And the closest that we can come to what currently exists would be some kind of a facility like we're talking about doing now. And so that's really why it's been exciting for us to start. It's a new venture. The other thing is that it gives people that are having events some choice in the neighborhood. Possibly they may not want to go to the grand scale of the Tribute House, and the Women's Club may be a little lower or a little more affordable.
A smaller venue.
Exactly right. So it's a little smaller, but it's an exciting venue. The place is really a great it's a great facility. And the interesting thing that we found.
It has indoor bathroom even.
Yeah, I think it does have one. Has one. The other issue is that well, by the way, as far as the name, we are calling it the Levering Mill Tribute House.
Oh, now it's going to be called the Levering Mill Tribute House?
It will no longer be called, it's no longer the
won't be
Women's
called
Club, no.
Well, is there still an association that's going to be the
Yes, the
Valor Women's Association or
The Women's Club will still exist. My understanding is that
okay.
they're going to be able to devote more activities to building their organization, but we will permit them obviously to meet there regularly. They may have some events there like once a month. I mean, we've got an agreement to be able to support whatever it is we can with them to hope that they will flourish, because they've had an interesting history. I mean, they go way back to Depression years when they were sewing used clothing for people that couldn't afford it. They started the library. They used to meet in the Union Firehouse. That's where they started the Library Association. The other issue is that the Lower Merion, the Levering Mill, the Levering Mill House has a plaque within it, much like the plaque that exists at the Tribute House, which talks about the fact that it's a tribute to the World War I vets. So they have a lot of synergy and a lot of history that sort of coincides, and I think it's going to be exciting.
Are you going to have a ribbon cutting or something? Or a dedication when it's official, or it is already official?
It's already official. What we probably are doing, our process right now is one of starting some capital improvements there, and so we're sort of fixing it up. At some point, we probably will have what we'll call a grand opening, but we're already beginning to book. There are people that
Isn't that interesting?
Well, because people book out in the future. So
sure.
we're booking, I mean, look, the Tribute House is booking into 2018 right now.
2018 already?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. People, you never know. But people are booking their events,
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Are there other community organizations that are interested in renting the facility for what they're doing?
Well, no. I think basically what we've done is there are community organizations. For instance, the Civic Association in Marion meets at the Tribute House.
Okay.
The Women's Club has some civic activities that go on there, and they'll continue. In other words, whatever we can do to promote community events and civic events, we will continue to do, but with the same thing, same eye towards making sure that we have our events booked so that we can raise revenue. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, because the cost is prohibitive. It's a major cost.
Well, every year the insurance goes up, I'm sure.
Everything.
Every year the electricity and the heat goes up.
And the roof, and the plumbing, and there's no end to it.
Right, and the gardening.
The landscaping.
Yeah.
We're going to be making some interesting improvements, but not changing anything that's over there, but sort of freshening up some things.
We're going to be sure to put Julia, can we put the website and the phone number on the screen? Here we go, tributehouse.com, and you can call 610-664-1267. That's 610-664-1267. Will you answer the phone, Jimmy Ettelson?
If they don't call too late at night before I go to bed, I'll answer the phone.
Well, whose phone number is that?
That's the Tribute House.
The Tribute House.
And Colette will answer. Colette or whoever, one of our staff will. We have staff there.
The staff is at the.
Well, actually, what happens is when you call, there's one number for both facilities now.
Oh,
so,
and it shifts over
exactly
automatically.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. When Verizon lets it do that.
Oh. I still think that when whoever the federal SAR was that divested Bell Atlantic, I think that was the worst day for the American consumer in the history of consumerism.
It's been going downhill ever since.
Unbelievable.
It's been going downhill ever since.
And I hate to see Verizon and Comcast and AT&T and Sprint and T-Mobile, hate to see them duke it out.
Oh.
Because the consumer doesn't win, that's for darn sure.
It's not meant for the consumer to win.
Well, I always have 1 foot in the Comcast, Comcast, 1 foot in Verizon. Comcast was my original TV provider.
Yep.
Never going to change that.
Right.
And Verizon was my original phone company and my internet provider.
Did you have a Welsh Valley number?
Not Welsh
Do
Valley.
you remember Welsh Valley? Mohawk. Remember?
Sure, I remember Mohawk.
Okay.
Are you kidding? My best friend lives in Chestnut Hill.
Okay.
And I still, when people ask for a phone number, I say CH7. They say, "What the heck
That
is
is
CH7?"
CH7. Nobody-
I said, "I don't know what the number. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's CH7. Is there?"
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember years ago when I was working at Temple University for Peter Leocoris of blessed
Sure.
memory.
Oh,
The state communications, whatever it's called, in Harrisburg,
okay.
they decided that they wanted to change everybody's, code for the phone. Temple University would have cost them like $1 million to change every single extension.
Yeah.
Oh my God! So I was very friendly at that time. It was Dan Whelan was the CEO of Verizon,
Right.
and there was somebody under him that I was very close with. He said, "Bonnie, we need you to write an op-ed for the Inquirer. Need you to come to Harrisburg, and we need you to, So I go to Harrisburg to testify,
Okay.
and I'll never forget the guy who was the head of I forget it's some kind of communications, not the FCC, that's the feds,
Right.
but it's probably the Pennsylvania Utilities Commission.
Okay, PUC.
It was the PUC.
Right.
And this guy was from central Pennsylvania. And the big problem he had was having to add 3 numbers to the area code.
In order to
Yes.
change.
So therefore, you should change everybody's number. So I said, I wouldn't mind adding, a three-digit area code. I said, but, and whatever his name was, I said, but he's from central Pennsylvania, so he doesn't understand. The room erupted in laughter.
They must have gone
And
crazy.
P.S., they didn't change any of the numbers. They just added.
They just added the area code.
They added the area code
Which was
instead. So you had a 10-number phone number instead of a 7-number phone number.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
And it would have cost everybody so much money. And who could remember they changed everybody's phone number? Is that the craziest thing?
Well, right now, interesting, since we're talking about Verizon, our next door neighbor is the Verizon building.
Oh, yes.
There. And we're trying to
Around the corner
work
from
with them.
Jaime's.
Trying to get them to allow us to utilize on the weekends their parking lot, which is directly behind our facility.
They don't use it on weekends, do
No.
they?
Now, my hope is that we'll be able to come to some kind of an agreement with them.
Verizon, we're giving you a shout out. You got to be good guys.
It's great for the township. They will. No, I think it would be very.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Look, we have a lot of interesting activities going on, and one of the improvements that we're going to be making at the Women's Club is the rear of it has like a ramp that goes directly along the back side of this property. We're going to have it run all the way into the kitchen so that the caterers do not have to go through the ballroom at the Women's Club when they're breaking up or setting up and everything, and use the outside. A lot of interesting things that are happening.
You mentioned caterers.
Yes.
That was going to be my next question.
Sure.
Whom are you allowed to bring in to provide sustenance?
Well, we don't limit caterers. We do have a recommended list of caterers that we work with. Now, the reason we do it is not so much
Is there a
to limit.
kitchen there or no?
Oh yeah, there's a full.
Oh, there is a kitchen?
Full kitchen.
I didn't realize
Full,
that.
oh, the interesting thing about that facility, it has a ballroom. It has a small area downstairs that was used for a karate class. It has there were all kinds of things going on in the building over the years that don't exist even at the Tribute House. But getting back to this, the caterers, we have an approved list of caterers. We do not stop caterers from coming in, but the reason we have the list is because, particularly, we had it at the Tribute House for this reason. They were familiar with all the facilities. So everything went a lot more smoothly. Now, there are dietary restrictions. People do have, we had a caterer recently at the Tribute House that came down from New York to do a kosher wedding that we had at the Tribute House. So it's although we have this approved list, we also
Special circumstances.
Yeah, sure. And so we recommend that any caterer that's interested in becoming on that approved list contact Colette, and they will talk. I mean, but that's really the reason for it is the familiarity with the facility more than anything else. It makes it go smoother.
What else do you do in the community? I mean, you're working full-time as an attorney, right? What's the name of your law firm?
I walk the dog. Wait,
you walk the dog.
I walk the dog.
You live in Marion?
I live in Marion on Bowman Avenue, yeah. And I've lived there since, I guess,
forever.
Oh, yeah, I know. The funny thing is, I was born. I moved in actually the early '50s. We moved out, and I lived at the Thomas Wynn at a time when they didn't allow children. And
what, your parents kept you in a bag?
We moved from Center City. My dad said, listen, they don't allow children, so when we go there, I'm going to put a cigar in your mouth and we'll tell them that you're a little person. But anyway, I lived there, and the lady that built the house that we live in lived where we live now. And when we bought her house, she moved to the Thomas Wynn. So that's basically.
Oh, that's funny.
It was an interesting thing, and so we've lived in this house for a number of years.
Well, did you live across the street, down the street, next door to Governor Shapp?
Oh yes, I remember Governor Shapp or Milton or whatever.
Yeah,
we lived there
Milton
for a
and
number of
Muriel.
years. Milton and Muriel gave me my barbecue. They gave the three houses, their house, the lady next to us, and our house. They built stone barbecues in the back, and they're still there. They're still there. Yeah, he was quite a guy, and a good friend of my father's, a very good friend.
He was a brilliant man.
Yes, he was.
It's interesting. At one point in time, I was teaching a class at Mainline School Night.
Okay.
And I taught a poetry workshop. The star of my class was, by then he had finished his terms as governor, was Milton Shapp. He had a flair for light verse. He was so talented. He had the class in stitches that I thought, I'm going to have a performance at the end of the semester. And I did, and he was the star of the show.
Oh, he was.
But the sad thing is, he was working on a Broadway musical. He was writing music and songs.
I didn't know.
But then he
got
diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And Muriel, she had him in Saunders' house. She was there all day, every day.
I used to see her when she
all
came
day,
back.
every day.
She was
the most devoted.
We should actually, since we're talking about Milton Shapp, thank him, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be having this cable newscast, probably. He and Dow Feith started cable television in this area.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
I didn't know that.
Up on Broad Street, yes. A fellow by the name of Dow Feith.
I remember Dow Feith, yeah.
And Milt Shapp founded what became the first cable company in Pennsylvania.
Mm.
So.
He was a smart guy.
Yes, he was.
And Muriel was such an advocate for mental health. Long before her husband was diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Right.
She was just phenomenal. That was her crusade as the First Lady of Pennsylvania.
Neat woman. Neat woman.
Yeah, remarkable. Now, I remember they had two kids, a son and a daughter. One of them was an opera singer.
I never met the kids. Funny as well as good. I remember seeing them, but I never really, this was years ago. My dad was friendly with that. With
the son I knew at one time, and he was an opera singer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was really very, very talented. Music ran in the family. Well, Milton played either the cello or the violin.
He played the violin.
The violin.
Yes.
Yeah, so there was music in the family and music in the house at all times. Absolutely.
And a state trooper in front of the house.
Well, that's true. Well, he was the governor,
That's true.
He was the
true.
governor. But he lived in, it was a beautiful home, but
Beautiful
it was just a normal people's home.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It wasn't one of these McMansion type places.
Not at all. No, he was a neat guy. I mean, he was a really neat guy.
You never knew that he was a multimillionaire.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So anyway, we are very excited about this project.
Let's put the website up on the screen again, Julia. Tributehouse.com, 610-664-1267. if your book club wants to have a place to meet,
Right.
or if your Boy Scout troop wants a place to meet.
Or your daughter wants to get married.
Okay, or a wedding, or
Yes.
some kind of celebration.
Definitely.
How about confirmation parties
Confirmation
for
parties.
non-Jews? That's allowed?
That definitely. Or we have, we also have corporate events every once in a while.
Oh.
We've had some major companies in the area.
Well,
have
if
retreats.
Verizon lets you use their parking lot, you can let them have their corporate
Definitely.
meetings there.
Most definitely.
Hear that, Verizon?
Definitely, definitely.
Because people are always looking for a place. I mean, I'm president of a board, and we're going to have a meeting at the Ludington Library.
Right.
I'm going to tell them next time we should meet at the Ballot.
Definitely take a look. It's certainly convenient, and
Does it have like an HD screen TV or any electronic stuff
that
we could
stuff
use?
is being put in. I mean, basically like we do
okay.
at the Tribute House. Oh no, definitely those facilities are easy. That's the easier part. The audiovisual part is really the easier part.
Okay.
The more difficult part are some of the improvements that have to be made and trying to figure out how to time them at a time when we're still beginning to have events. So
You talked about a ramp for the caterer.
yes.
But what about accessibility for people with walkers and
all handicap access.
all handicap? Okay,
yeah,
so it's
definitely.
ADA compliant.
Definitely, definitely.
Well, that's very important.
Oh, definitely, definitely, and it's easy. It's very convenient for people in the area because it's well located. I mean, it's certainly centrally located.
Well, it's a half block from Montgomery Avenue.
Exactly.
That's pretty close.
Very much. Yeah, it's
Pretty
good.
close to buses and whatever.
Yep.
Absolutely. And a lot of restaurants. If the tavern ever reopens, we still are waiting for that. The sign's been up, the posters board's been up forever, and now I noticed recently they're doing some kind of construction project on the front entrance.
I don't know that.
I don't know what they're doing.
Very surprised when Nick sold, and because he was there for a lot of years.
Oh, must have been there for 40 years, and he lives next door.
Right, the house right behind it.
Right
parking lot.
behind it.
Oh yeah.
But allegedly, he's a consultant to Megerman who bought the property.
That's what I hear. That's
But
what I hear.
so far, nothing has. Well, it took. Megerman also built that the dairy restaurant across the street from Jaime's.
Yes.
And that took about 2.5 years of construction.
Right.
So he's not in any hurry. But we miss when we used to go there for lunch and dinner a couple times a week.
Oh God.
And
Good
we miss
guy.
it.
Good play.
We miss it. We miss it.
It
we
was a
miss it.
fixture. Actually, do you remember Judy Everhart, the name? Her father owned a tavern when we went to Lower Merion High School.
Oh, really?
And the only reason I remember is because she sat next to me in homeroom. In those days, they used to do it by initials.
Oh.
Your last name is what determined what homeroom
That's
you were
right.
in. And Judy sat next to me. But
Because I was Bonnie Stein, and Bob Schwartz always sat either in front of me or behind me. Yes.
my fraternity brother.
And he's a lawyer also.
Yes.
He's
yes,
a good guy. He and I
real-
serve on the ADL board together. He's
Neat guy.
terrific.
Neat guy.
And I suspect he's a D.
I don't know. That I don't know. I know that we've been to Penn State together.
No, I
so-
know because he's the one who got me involved years ago and made me give money to Joe Sestak, so I know he's a D.
Okay. Then he definitely is.
Yes, he definitely is a D. Definitely is a D. Well, anyway, our guest today has been James Ettelson, Esquire, or Jimmy Ettelson, as those who have known him forever. And he's now he's been the president of the Merion Foundation that just took over running the Women's Club of Ballackinwood, except now it's called the
Levering Mill Tribute House.
the Levering Mill Tribute House, which is open for business. So thank you very much, Jimmy.
And thank you.
And good
Bon.
luck with the new venture.
Thank you very much, Bon. It was
We didn't
good
even get to
seeing you.
talk about your trip to Germany and
Oh.
your kid lives over there. That'll be another time,
Okay.
another topic, okay?
Look forward to it.
All right, we'll see everybody next week.